I call to order a public meeting on the application of Grant Paulson on behalf of Hood River Masonic Lodge for a landmarks review of file number 2025-24 for exterior modifications to the Masonic Lodge building at 212 2nd Street. A quorum of the Landmarks Board is present. I will now ask members to disclose any pre-hearing or ex parte contacts regarding the application or absentations based on conflicts of interest or bias.
I do some work with him at another property, but Colin Mission of Plumbing. I don't know what that matters.
Is there anyone online?
Are we going down the road?
Oh,
Everyone
okay.
should make a
Gotcha.
statement, yeah.
No.
So when there was some work on this quite a few years ago, the city contacted me to get historic photographs of the site, and I provided those. So those should be at least the county. I mean, the city has those, and I don't know if any of those are relevant or not. So if something comes up where I know something because I've seen a photo that other people haven't seen, I will mention that and dig up the photo. But other than that, I don't have any ex parte contact.
I have none.
I have none.
Couple questions though. Out of order.
We'll get to those later.
Good.
Seeing that no one is online, let me provide an overview of this hearing and some rules of the procedure. First, we will hear the city staff report, then we will hear from the applicant. Then we will take testimony from the public. After we have taken testimony and asked questions, we will close the record and render a decision. Our decision is not final until it's reduced to writing. To appeal our decision, you must participate orally or in writing. Does anyone have any questions regarding the hearing process or have any procedural issues they would like to raise?
Did we establish that there was no one has any opposition to us hearing this? So after the ex parte, there's a section where you ask if anyone has any objection to any of us being involved in this proceeding. Did we establish that?
Thank you. No. Would anyone present or online like to challenge any Landmarks Board's members' ability to hear this application? Good. Thanks. If not, let's start with the staff report.
This landmarks review is for proposed exterior alterations to the Masonic Lodge building at 212 2nd Street. The scope of work involves several exterior modifications to the building, including the removal of the existing fire escape on the eastern facade, repainting of the second-story exterior wall on the same facade, replacement of existing windows, installation of new HVAC systems with mechanical unit screening, addition of new awnings on the eastern facade, installation of a new door on the western facade, and installation of a new gate to provide access control to the rear parking lot. As outlined throughout the staff report, the proposal includes several potential improvements that the applicant seeks approval for, though many of these are still contingent upon securing adequate funding. Because of this, while many modifications are required, staff included conditions within the report to allow the applicant optional improvements as well, which can be removed from the scope without requiring a landmarks amendment. Staff included conditions of approval starting on page 24 of your packet to ensure compliance with the Hood River Municipal Code and Secretary of Interior standards. The consolidated list of proposed modifications, along with their respective required and optional conditions, can be found beginning on page 26 of the packet. Any questions?
Hey, no questions for staff?
I'm not quite clear. Or are you going to go through an outline of this?
I certainly can. Do you guys want to hear the modifications that beyond that what we're recommending for optional or required?
It might be helpful just
Okay.
helping us
So,
structure our comments. later.
We'll just go step by step. So for the required window replacements, there's window replacement potential modifications on the east, north, and west facades. That was written in a way that if they don't touch it, it's not necessarily a required improvement. However, you can't just make a modification to one window on any given elevation, so there needs to be continuity. So you couldn't do one window replacement on the second story of this. If you do that and you touch it, you have to replace all of them. There's not any modification to the existing wood trim. It would just be the window itself sitting kind of within the inside component. For HVAC screening, that's actually, and HVAC on the north side, that's already been installed without going through quite the proper permit channels. So that is a required piece that needs to be retroactively permitted and hopefully approved as part of this application. There's stucco removal incorporated on the upper cornice that runs right along the top of the building. That modification is a required component of this application. The eastern storefront door replacement also on the primary facade on the southern portion was replaced after vandalism without going through the landmarks process. So there is a condition of approval in there to have it be wood clear coat trim with a full window panel to match the existing one that has been previously approved on the northern side of that elevation. Awnings were included as optional, just depending on tenant needs, and that can be kind of made within that 2-year window of this approval. We included outlines of what colors and design are allowable within the staff report. As far as pieces that are completely optional, the fire escape is kind of dependent on 2 things. One, if they want to move forward with it. 2, depending on fire code and building egress. So that'll be more of a conversation at time of building permit, and if deemed by the building official or fire marshal that needs to stay, that could be removed from the scope without any subsequent amendment. There's a western door proposed to be installed on the western facade as well, which is just kind of like the steel gray door that pretty much blends in with the existing color of the non-primary facade. That could be removed from the scope without implicating any architectural features that are listed as important for this, nor on the primary facade itself. And then the control gate and automation mechanical unit can also be removed pending applicant funding and where they want to go with that.
You clarify that the addition on the roof that was mentioned in the packet is not part of this?
So within the packet, in the original application materials received from the applicant, there was a greater scope that included the rooftop bar, and then also included within the packet, there's subsequent email and subsequent plans that were submitted to remove that from the scope, because after further conversation, that didn't seem like something that would be feasible within the next 2 years, so it didn't make sense to try to fit that into an approval if it was likely not going to be able to happen.
And just 2 years,
2 years with a year-long extension possibility, so 3 max.
so it can be 3.
Yeah.
Could I ask a question about this one particular window? There's the window that has a curved top on it.
On the northern elevation, or are you talking about these ones?
Basically onto Second Street, there's a window with an arched opening. And that's a particularly significant location. Is that in play in this discussion?
There's no modifications as part of this proposed on the first floor, beyond the door and any painting involved.
Is that the post office window?
Right, so that was the post office window for many years.
Yeah.
So that's historically important, but it would, isn't that one that was modified without approval a decade ago?
There was components of that were subsequently grabbed in the 2019 landmarks. So a lot of that was actually retroactively grabbed. But pieces like the HVAC, actually, this has crossed landmarks review as well. And there was an approval for modifications on the HVAC on the north side. It just didn't end up looking like what was shown in the plans, which is why we're coming back to grab it again.
I guess I was just confused because there's a discussion about the color matching on that stucco.
Yeah, so the intent.
What was going on?
So the color matching on the stucco.
Yep.
So once they remove it, it'll be presumably painted some other color that isn't what the current building color is. So they'll be matching, and then also just the accent grays and all that. If there's any requirement to kind of touch up in that similar color palette, that's allowable. So gray to gray.
So I'm confused. So I think you said that they're not touching that window.
I thought you were talking about the second story. There's no modifications happening beyond the door on the first floor on that
They're on the
elevation.
first floor, but there's the arched there's an arched window on the first floor that was the.
Yeah, that's not being
Detail.
contemplated as part of this.
Because that's the photograph that's included with the stucco.
The,
Stucco there is not been modified.
no, the intent was to have the paint changes or any subsequent painting on the second story match what exists on the first. That's what that conversation
Oh,
was.
okay.
Yeah.
So I was confused there, but the stucco, the original stucco of that was without approval.
Mhm.
And you're saying that was.
And a portion of this is removing that stucco from the upper cornice.
From the upper, but there's no removing of it from the lower.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Yeah.
A little bit confusing.
Yeah. Any additional questions?
Well, I have a question. Is it, the owner, are you the owner? I mean,
There will be opportunity for the applicant to discuss after staff is done.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I wondered if is it used now as the Masonic, is it used all the time?
The Masonic Lodge is partially occupied by, the Masonic group.
Because it says in the writing that it can't be anything.
So there's vacant space in there as
businesses,
well.
Apartments or anything up there.
Nothing like that I'm aware
Yeah.
of.
Okay.
Yeah, but Grant will be able to speak more to that if you have those questions once he's up here.
Okay, so,
But the landmarks conditions, we don't regulate the use. The use
Nope.
regulation happens through the.
That's correct. Yeah, there's no contemplation on what's going on inside the building as part of this.
So basically, that's not a problem, that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Any questions? Chad? Josie? No.
Thank you.
We'll now hear from the applicant.
Hey. Private citizen grant today, not city councilor grant nor commissioner grant, which is nice. Usually I'm sitting in that chair. If you have any questions, just leave your mic on, feel free to ask. I'm not here to go back and forth. Jacob's been more than helpful in clarifying what we're doing over there and getting everything straightened up. So I don't have any questions regarding the findings or conclusions in there. There's just a couple of things I think you're gonna give me some information about the color on the venting that we already talked about that. So there's a couple of things that we're just wrapping up about that, small details that do not affect the conclusions at all that we've already talked about. A little bit about the history that you might be more interested in that you've asked about in the past. It's one of the oldest buildings in town. The charity, the organization itself has been there for a very long time. It's gone through some changes. A bunch of the folks are not there anymore. So it's a very small organization. And the building itself hasn't been maintained or really done anything for more or less 4 decades. So I'm bringing it back up and breathing life, trying to breathe life back into it. The lodge is upstairs, not downstairs. So everything that takes place lodge wise is on the second story. So the purpose of this application is to bring that building back up to actual good repair state, actual function, and make it into a functional building and good representation of downtown and bring some vitality back into this area as well. That way bring some more opportunity for people to actually be here, do things here and thrive in the downtown core. So yeah, I'm here to answer any question.
Might have said this, you're representing the applicant.
Yes. Yeah, and the applicant is the Masonic Lodge. It's a nonprofit charity. It's been around for a very long time. The oldest charity, I think, in the world, if I know correctly. Can check to make sure, but yeah, been around a long time. Longer than that building's been around longer than the city of Hood River has been around. So, yeah, if you guys have any questions for me about the building itself, I don't have anything else to add than is outside of the staff report. But if there's any other flavor or background, I can answer any questions.
Another comment, it mentions here in the write-up about it that, they wanted it to be the color of, the Lightwell Hotel, which was just painted only a few months ago. So this old photo from 1993, it is kind of a cream colored beige. So they painted it over and over again, and now they've got it back to where they think it matches the Lightwell, right?
It's a similar color. I talked with, I asked, Locke, what color he painted Lightwell, and he didn't get back to me or tell me exactly what color it is, which is fine. So I kind of eyeballed it. And said it looks roughly between-ish these two colors. So I try to complement the neighboring buildings as much as possible, as well as that one within the natural color palette that's allowed under guidance of the Downtown Historic District. My wife is also in the artistic field, and so she has an eye for color more than I do. So she helped out a bit with that too. She does a bunch of,
The same sort of color, it will still stay kind of cream.
yeah, the color that's called out in the application. I'm not a fan of the name, Big Spender. Yeah. I know. Yeah.
Like a gambling joint.
Yeah. Don't ask me how they name these things. My wife,
Supposed to be foods. Colors are supposed to be named after food.
if I could rename the color, sure. But that just eyeballing color swatches versus the color that was there, that was the closest match. That made sense with the light and the shadows on the stuff. So I can't help what it's called. That's just yeah, I could just go with the Pantone number if you want to use that, but that was just the name of the thing. So that was closest color match.
Well, will the lower area be matched too? Will they match it up? The lower area where there's the restaurant or next door or whatever's there? Is that all gonna be the same color?
That
The lower, ground floor?
I think she's asking, are you repainting the ground floor also, or just the upper floor?
that color matches that ground floor color that's already there.
Well, no.
That's what I used.
So you're painting the second floor to match the first that's already painted.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I used with the color swatches to match color on there.
Just for record or whatever, in terms of being one of the oldest buildings, it's one of the first masonry buildings in the city of Wood River. There are
Right,
many
yes.
stick-built buildings that are older, but this is, there were, I think, it's one of the first two or three. We're not really sure which was the first.
Yep, one of the first ones. And then there were some questions about where our building started and ended generally. Look out from here. There's right now the section that the Masonic Lodge owns is painted white, and then there's part over here on the north side that's painted red. That at some point in the past was sold off as a separate tax lot. I don't know when, exactly which year that was sold off, but that's separate owner. Separate owner owns that part of the original building. So what the lodge has control over is the remaining 2/3 of the original building and the back between 2nd and 3rd Street.
What are the methods you're gonna use to take off that top detail, that dental or whatever? You guys just, how are you gonna go about getting that stuff off? Just going by hand, or it's gonna be laborious then?
Yeah, carefully. Haven't gotten, well, we haven't gone through that process to get up there and really dig into it that much because we haven't wanted to touch it until we went through this process. didn't want to take something off until actually being told, yeah, go ahead and actually have a plan and everybody's on board with it first. So assuming that we are told, yes, go ahead and do that work, then we'll go on there and carefully take that sort of top board that's covering up that top brick detail off and see exactly what's going on underneath it.
So the detail itself is not filled in with stucco. There's like a board or metal piece that's coated.
At some point, it was put up there and is covering up the brick detail that you can see in the part that's immediately to the north, that other section of the original building. Yeah, and then at some point in the past, don't know when, it was covered over with what looks like that board. I haven't been up there to pull it off because I'm not parking a lift on the sidewalk to do that yet, or rappelling from the roof necessarily. But once we get to that point, we'll be able to carefully do that work. But again, it's a small group of people, very small, and it's taking my own free time to do this.
The intent is to restore it so that it remove whatever was added to it.
Yes.
So it looks like the building.
Yeah,
like the
in-
building.
As in the report, the intent is to remove that and restore the original condition along that, just below the cornice of the roof to, yeah.
A laudable goal. I'm very thankful that you are planning to do that.
Yeah, I was excited to see that in the report and the potential for the removal of the fire escape. Can you talk at all or give any sort of status update for the fire and life safety plan that would allow for its removal?
Yep, I talked with the fire chief about what is and isn't possible. We have access through windows if we need to do additional safety ingress and egress through ladders to the windows or different methods. There's 2 stairwells in the building itself that lead to the front and the back of the building. So depending on square footage, travel distances to the stairwells and whatnot, I would work with the fire chief to address exactly what has to be done to address that, should we take that fire escape down.
And there's a conceptual image that was provided to us. This looks like you or someone who's photoshopped the changes onto a drawing. Right?
Mhm. Yeah.
It's on page 21 of 22. And the text, I just want to make sure I'm understanding it. It looks in that drawing like the upper story is planned to be a different color than the lower story, but that's not the case, right?
We need to check the.
One's gray and one's cream in this photograph.
It could be my excellent Photoshop skills, which are absolutely terrible.
I'm just trying to verify. Yeah, I wasn't going to comment on that, but if you would like some guidance, I'm happy to help you with Photoshop. But that's.
I
But I
attempted.
just want to verify that when I'm looking at that picture, I should see the top and the bottom at the same color.
Right.
Perfect.
I thought when I read about the reference to the light well,
Oh,
that you meant like it was going to be like a darker base color and a lighter second story.
Grab my laptop. So grab my laptop really quick.
So when we approved Lightwell, we were specific about that not being a precedent and that being relevant because of the fact that there had been a veranda on the building, so that there was an accent that was created by the shadow originally, which isn't present anymore. And so I think the general principle is that we don't want buildings to be two-tone.
Right, well,
But-
we have unity.
But there should be, but if it is, there's some reason, and so I'm presuming that this is not a two-tone building. But that's why I'm verifying.
Architecturally, significant breakdown that the lines, also different use as a hotel.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And then also more commercial use and sort of both that too, but. So this looks hard.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. So, but I do remember Dustin was here and he had a lot of points against two-tone historic buildings, and We at least, we said a fair number of words in the discussion about this being a relatively unique case or not the typical case. We're talking about light bulb. So if that's a request here, then I think we need to talk more about it.
Yeah.
So I don't think he is requesting that.
1 second. Thanks for bearing with me for a moment.
You painted a natural tone similar appearance to the color scheme.
Yeah, and it's highly possible that I confused myself earlier. Yeah, that is my terrible photoshopping skills. Okay. All right, when we were talking, yes, I'm pretty sure I misspoke earlier. When we were talking about the stucco, as we were talking, that when you were asking staff about the stucco and repainting the stucco, that color is the color match the big spender color that was called out there. And so that's what I think where I was stuck there. My intent was in the application is to match the second story with a similar color to what the Lightwell did.
The second story, final?
Yeah, the upper stories of Lightwell, similar in color, and do that same sort of treatment here.
Except that color.
Yes, and that is because the downstairs the first level of this building, similar to Lightwell, has always been commercial or retail, open to the public, in and out, sort of commercial establishments. And the upper levels have always been lodge operations. There's always been sort of two separate uses in that building as well, similar to what the Lightwell historically has done by having sort of a public facing lower level and then more private space above. So sorry for my confusion earlier.
No, it's just an important question. When we have
Yes.
inspiration, I think we need to spend some time on discussing that.
Yeah.
So your intent here, I don't know, tell me what your intent is.
Yeah, two color tone between those, and I'm sorry I didn't have the exact color called out on the second story because my intent was to get the same color that was called out at Lightwell and say, here's the color and go with that. But since that was not provided to me and what hasn't been called out that I've been able to find in other documents, I don't have exactly to tell you exactly what that is. But that's the intent, is to get something that looks very similar to that.
To have two separate colors. Is just, you think it looks good?
Aesthetics, yeah. And this beauty is subjective and in the eye of the beholder.
Have any technical justification, any historical justification for it? Thanks.
Nope.
Is there going to be any trim at all, anything above the arches, the arcading? Will there be a strip of color that will go around the arches and
Or the eyebrow?
yeah, I mean, something besides just a straight beige exterior?
Yeah, there's again, my Photoshop skills are terrible. So that image itself does a bit of a disservice and a lot of details lost in,
Okay.
yeah, there's a bit of a brick sort of standout arches above each window on that second floor. That will remain, and there will be that line, those details will remain. So that you will see a visual break, and it won't just be a flat color across that second story, as well as once we uncover the detail just below the cornice, the top of the building, it would look similar to what's on the section to the neighboring original part that's immediately to the north. Yeah, with the brick just above that, the more accent darker color.
Is the accenting color gonna be matched to the
Yeah,
lower level color?
right, and match to the lower color in the brick. Yes.
So I'm sure I'm looking at the same thing. when I'm looking at this photograph on, similar to you on page 1622, it's a little hard to tell because the resolution is low, but the shadow line is actually, it's actually pink. That's not just a shadow that I'm seeing, right? It's the secondary color which is used to paint the shadow line.
1620. Which page are you on?
Page 1622 in the document.
This is what it looks like.
Ah, yeah, got it.
Yes.
Yep. So looking at the building from the top down,
Yes.
from the top of the building, yeah, that, from the top of the building, very top of the building, that sort of darker thing at the top is the sort of board or whatever that's covering the top. Then below that is the arches that are above windows. They're bricks that stick out from the building, sort of in relief. And you got the windows there, and then there's another sort of band of brick below that, and that's not going to be painted either. So the only sections on that second story that will be painted is what you see there that is white now. That those other details that are brick, that sort of currently gray brick color, that stuff is original and isn't going to be painted over.
Okay, but so the piece that has the board over it.
Yeah.
The building next to it has two highlighted two bands of highlighting colors or whatever you want to call that gray color. There are two bands of it, and are you saying your intent is to do that in the same color as those eyebrows?
Up at the top of the building, right?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
You call it a string course,
What's that?
call it a string course.
I'm just trying to understand if the plan is to match the coloring to the building next to it. The main color will not be matched to the building, but the string course, but a new word, the string course is intended to match the other building. And you leave the Masonic symbol up there and the team and the sign.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Questions for that? Good. We will now take public testimony. For those wishing to provide testimony, please wait until you are called on, and please come to the podium to state your name and address. After everyone has had the opportunity to speak, the board will have an opportunity to ask questions of staff and the applicant before we close the public hearing and begin deliberations.
Should they form a line over there or there?
A number. And there's no one online, so. Okay. This concludes the public testimony and oral argument portion of the hearing. I will now close the public hearing. We will now begin deliberations.
Get to ask staff any following questions. Is that appropriate? Yeah. Before we deliberate on this, can you give us any thoughts or input on the two color issue?
So the staff wrote the report as two different colors because that's what it appeared to be in the application, with the big spender being the second story primary facade color, and then any accent pieces being repainted to what their current colors are approximately. So if there's some evaluation that Landmarks wants them to be kind of the primary facade color to be monotone on both first and second story, we could certainly include that, but that'll be part of your deliberations. We didn't reevaluate that since the building already exists as two-tone. So there didn't seem to be any reason to agitate kind of the already existing two storefront color.
And what is from a Landmark's point of view, they're not applying to change the color?
They're not applying to change the color for the first floor, for the storefront. That's correct. And actually, if it was just repainting, it would likely fall outside of landmarks
I
anyway.
was just gonna ask, so what's the technical process if they wanted to repaint?
So likely, if it was no other modifications other than painting, there probably would not be a landmarks review at all.
When Paris Fair building repainted 5, 6 years ago, was that done by administrative review or?
I'd have to go back and look. I think there was other modifications had to do with the primary storefront and then maybe a new door on the western elevation. I don't think it was just painting, but I'd have to go back and look into that.
But the landmarks board was not involved in that process.
I think since if it was part of a greater review, it probably was evaluated, but I'd have to go back and see what kind of the scope of whatever application they submitted was.
Yeah, we're gonna deliberate on some questions on. Yeah.
We'll now begin deliberations.
So, yeah, so maybe this is not an application to paint the building or change that color, so. Yeah, I'm just a little confused about whether this is in our scope of review in the first place. But maybe if I could just hear what you guys feel about. I would hate to see every building downtown decide two-tone is modern this year, so we're going to switch all these one-color buildings on Oak Street and on Third Street, on Fourth Street to two-tone buildings. It's just this following on to the last review we did, Bingham Lightwell, and us having a long discussion about whether one or two-tone was appropriate. I'd at least like to hear what you guys think about two-tone in this context.
Well, I'm not sure what, I wasn't here for you guys like, well.
Yep.
So. I can speak with no regards to that, but. I think that having a single tone looks better personally. I think anything that they do on this, improvement, I think taking that margin board off, whatever that is, covering the top, removing the, I think that's a vast improvement of what is there. The ice work, the fire escape is great, and I think a single tone is the best look. I probably would put my foot down against a two-tone, just for the fear of multiple buildings in town kind of falling suit. But I do hear, is that so I don't really have an objection to it that way.
I remember thinking during our discussions about Lightwell, like being able to break it out, one prevents it from just being this monolith, that looks out over the town. And two, reminds me of there's more examples, I guess, I don't know that there's any examples in this town, but like Portland, where there's like a rusticated first story of rock, and then, maybe brick goes up from there. I assume, architectural historians can tell me, but it's the sense to not make the building appear so heavy that it is lighter as it goes up. That certainly works for I think quite well. My only reservation in this case is that you have two tax lots, one building, but now 3 colors. And it'd be great if those buildings will be married again. To prevent a single motif form. That's not part of what's gonna happen, but that's my reservation is looking at 3 different primary.
Would you think 2 would be better than 3? 2 colors better than 3.
Well, it looks historic, it's hard obviously to tell from historical photos. But it looks historically like it was one color tone. And correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't the light well originally also a two-tone, or they had like a big awning around that bottom part? And so it kind of had that distinguishing feature of having two tones.
It was constructed, so first of all, these buildings were all raw brick when they were built, so there was no color other than the color of brick.
Oh, okay.
It was, when they were painted, we had evidence with Lightwell. We had pictures from the thirties and forties that showed what appears to be two different shades of gray in a black and white photo. So there was some evidence that there had historically been, it had painted two different colors. And then I pointed out that up until 1910, it was, you couldn't. There was a shadow cast on it by the veranda, some of that changed, but they ripped the verandas off in 1912. So.
Okay, yeah, yeah, so I see what you mean, like creating a precedence of people wanting to have two tones where, you know, we're supposed to be more converse with the historical cultures, which is the monotone, so.
I mean, just thinking from a Secretary of Interior Standards perspective, we're able to return it to the original reference. The two photos in here, that we mentioned, Arthur, the one clear one, even though it is kind of an oblique angle, it does look like it's just natural brick. The other one seems pretty whitewashed, and it is definitely a different year because some of the signage looks different, but neither photo is enough to really have any solid conclusion. From an aesthetic perspective, and just thinking about possibly integrity feeling, one tone feels more agreeable. But again, I would put a huge argument against a two-tone approach, aside from any same precedent for future buildings. More restrictive.
So will the string course be painted in a contrasting color to highlight it?
That's what he said, it would be gray. Compared to the cream.
Oh, great, that's fine, good.
It's the existing gray that they weren't going to repaint it.
Just so it stands out and adds some beauty to the upper section where the interest lies.
I mean, the idea was that there were going to be two bands of gray, they're extending bands of gray.
What is the front?
I don't know which picture, what page it was.
So I'm looking at this one, 21 and 22. But then I go back to this one,
You go to 16 and 22.
and here's 16 of 22. And it is highlighted a little, it is highlighted in the gray. It looks like it's the same that goes right on into the brick. But
Right.
it would be good.
And then if you go up to the cornice, whatever that
There's two string courses up in there.
exactly, and so what he said was that those would also be highlighted in the same gray to, roughly
Oh,
match.
okay, I
the
want
next
those marks on that. Good, it all seems, that's the only questions I had, except for the back, I mean. Shouldn't it be tidied up a little?
Well, that's,
It's ridiculous, right?
yeah, that's not a problem.
But the back of it. I mean,
So-
it looks terrible back there. Excuse me.
Parking lot.
Yeah, no, I mean this part.
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, tidying it up a little, closing it off or cleaning it or something would be possible.
Build another building in front of it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
Yeah.
it's surprisingly empty spot for a long time, but I suspect at some point someone will take advantage of that lot and build something far more valuable than a parking lot there. So I guess what I heard here, I think what I heard from Jacob is that we would probably be stretching it if we thought this was, that we had control over the paint color on this. Telling to repaint the bottom, for example, or something like that, would we kind of be stretching it, but what we did have is, so there's 6 of us, so all 6 of us think that it would look better in a single tone, and I guess we could simply share that opinion with the applicant to recognize that from a regulatory point of view, it's probably overreach for us to be mandating something there, because that's what the application is about. So Says if we give our personal opinions, or expert opinions, whatever expertise we have up here. Which for,
We can.
you folks supported me.
Keep it quiet.
Well, I mean, you know, several of you are experts in this field, and this is what you saw. So that may be helpful to Grant to see works with his colleagues on the details when he goes to the paint store, and that's the debate whether to get the expander.
When it's already pointed out on the sideboard, the additional tax lot being below, getting no control over, they're not applying to do any work. It would be great if it could all be continuous, regardless whether it's a two-tone or single.
Especially because of the pure stone building, which is to the south of that, that color is actually pretty similar to the building to the north, right? So you got, it's surrounded by two reddish stone buildings, little highlights that are different colors. So I don't see a good solid reason to make the whole block the same color, but I think that the upper and lower, I don't see as clear a justification for the upper and lower story being different colors as I did for Lightwell. So if it were my building, I would paint the upper and lower the same color. Or leave it, but other than that, I have no objection to the modifications requested, so where's the recommended motion? Maybe that on it.
Okay, any more discussion?
No.
We'd like Chris's first meeting, let him make the recommended motion.
I'm still new to the whole procedural.
Well, we'll talk you through it.
Sure.
Does anyone move to approve file number 2025-2024 to allow for exterior modification to the building at 212 Second Street as described in the staff report, including the findings and recommended conditions of approval in the staff report?
Move to approve.
Good work.
A second? I'll second.
This is your, who made the motion, who seconded it?
Chris.
Chris Donnemeyer moved to approve file number 2025-24. Colin seconded the motion. Carries.
If that's any further discussion, then ask for a vote.
Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor of motion 2025-24?
Aye.
Thanks. Good.
You got something to add?
That's it.
You can say you're adjourned.
We are adjourned.